Once in a while, you will scroll through the internet and you hear somebody say, this movie doesn't get the respect it deserves. When I heard this about Kung Fu Panda, I said, what? I thought to myself, let me watch it again and see, you know what? Does it hold up? Spoiler, it does. This is going to be a quick one on why I believe this is the case, so let's get into it. This movie starts off by making you feel like it's just about Po not wanting to be average. But it does it in a way that captures how I viewed the world when I was younger. Po is very much like a child. He hasn't been fully crushed by the realities of the world. The conversation he has with his dad at the beginning speaks to this, as he reveals that on some level, he has a disdain for living a normal life. He wants to be one thing, but his father wants him to take the safe and well-traveled path. Starting off the show with relatability. There's not a quicker way to get into my heart. I adore the message that this movie tries to send to the world. For a lot of us, we walk through life feeling like we're not enough and sometimes not worthy. Whether it's I need that job, I need that promotion, I need that car, I need that person. There's so many things in life we look at and say, I need that to be complete. But Kung Fu Panda says, no, you as you are enough. Everything you need is within you and there's no secret ingredient. Gosh, I sound like those crystal loving baddies on Instagram right now. But nonetheless, this message is even ingrained in the antagonist's motivation. He doesn't want to destroy or conquer the world. Seemingly, he just wants the missing piece to make him complete. He wants what is owed to him. He wants the dragon scroll, the one thing he feels he needs in order to fulfill his destiny. Even in his fight with Shifu, he's still seeking some level of approval, something outside of himself. Just these two themes alone make this movie great because they serve as lessons for kids and relatable stories for adults. The fighting in this movie is beautiful to witness. It is choreographed so well. I may not be a Kung Fu expert, but I feel like a true master would be impressed by the effort that was put in here. I think it must have been challenging to take Kung Fu, something usually done by humans, and attempt to translate it into animal forms. But they pulled it off. There's not a single moment I look at it and say, man, that's a little off. And I love how they tackle the Tai Lung and Po fight. Yes, Po is a dragon warrior and has mastered some level of Kung Fu in the past few days, but he isn't a traditionally skilled martial artist. He therefore depends on his environment more. It's rough, it's messy, and they easily communicate that he's still a novice. When he does finally win, it doesn't feel like this huge unwarranted power up. It feels like he went through a journey and still has more steps ahead of him. While the tone of this movie is very much darkness is looming and all the good moments we had in the past are about to end. You can see this through Tai Lang escaping the inescapable prison. He defeats the strongest warriors in the land, leaves them alive in order to strike fear into his enemies, and outclasses the most powerful Kung Fu masters. There still includes some subtle level comedy to bring in humor into the fold, and you don't feel like it's all gloom and doom till the end. Whether it's the awkward moments Po has with the Furious Five, how the villagers try to pick Po up and fail at every turn, Po eating the peaches before talking to Uguay, and just stuff like this, man. They always find a way to make the dark moments lighthearted. It's a delicate balance, but they pull it off so well. The fight looks so good, and speaking of how good and fluid things look, the animation in this is god tier. I'm watching this show over a decade later, and the animation still holds up. It doesn't feel dated. They make very good use of the screen space, the shots are incredibly composed, and it's always clear how the characters feel in every single moment. The details they put into every scene is incredible, from the panda shadow in the beginning to the reflection imposed that knife. Like, come on! They freaking care. I freaking love this movie, man. And one last thing, the foreshadowing, or maybe setup, in this show is so great. From Poe's talent with the food in the beginning, all the way to the acupuncture scene and how Thailand can damage his nerves at the end. And the finger hold. I just love it when things you didn't think mattered have a great payoff. This movie is awesome. 8 out of 10. Good sequels are hard to come by. It's hard to capture the magic of the first movie that was so successful. And so that direction most movies take leaves fans disappointed. But Kung Fu Panda 2 is not one of these movies. This is what sequels should be. This movie is freaking awesome, and here's why. The events of this movie occur because of a quote that Uguay said. One often meets his destiny on the road to avoiding it. The antagonist created this Po that could stop him. If he didn't order the massacre, Po doesn't go to the Valley of Peace and learn all that he needs to in order to become the Dragon Warrior, the very being capable of beating him. That's what makes this a great sequel. It borrows from the first movie while adding to the world in a congruent manner. And maybe it's better to say it doesn't stray far from all the things that made the first movie work. The animation is still top tier and holds up as well. I just love how they lean into the 2D animation more. Whenever Po has a vision or dream, the animation changes to 2D and it's just beautiful. And it's just a beautiful drawn art piece. This is what makes animation a great medium. It gives you so many options to increase the level of your visuals, and I love it when a studio takes full advantage of the benefits that a medium provides them. The Kung Fu choreography is still amazing. The difference is how they use it as a device for growth. We get to see how much growth has happened through Kung Fu. Po is now a master of his craft. He's even celebrated for it, and him and the Furious 5 have combo attacks, showing that they have accepted Po and he is one of them. Their fights are different and more creative. We're not overcoming another Kung Fu master. We're in a situation where Kung Fu can't do much. Doesn't matter if you got hands. These cannons puts us on equal footing. You see the Furious 5 try to come up with a plan that's not just let's kick ass. You see them being sneaky. You see them being more than fists and fury. And speaking of seeing more from the Furious 5, I'm happy they spent more time on Tigress. In the last film, she had the most animosity towards Po. I love that they showed a softer side to her and addressed that, hey, Po has been 100% accepted into the fold. We have a more compelling villain. Tai Lang was great. He was a great martial artist. He was cool as a cucumber, and he had a motive that one could get behind. While nuanced antagonists are great, sometimes it's more fun to look at a bad guy and say, oh, you're evil, and I'm 100% rooting for your downfall. There's no attempt to make you feel empathy for Lord Shen. He's a man who was exiled for massacring an entire race, and when he comes back, he ends the life of someone. Every time this guy's on your screen, he does something to make you hate his guts. He's a classic villain, a man who's obsessed with power and is so afraid of being stopped to create the thing that stops him. He has traits that all writing teachers will tell you makes for a great villain. 1. Connection to the hero. Lord Shen took out Po's race and is the reason he doesn't know his parents. His existence is the number one thing blocking Po from finding inner peace. This means that this time, it's more personal for him, and he becomes heavily invested in stopping the main villain beyond the fact that it's his duty as a dragon warrior. A worthy opponent. Lord Shen is a great martial artist in his own right, incredible swordsman and can go toe-to-toe with Po, but he has access to weapons that make Po's greatest strength. Kung Fu, useless. He low-key defeats Po and has him stumped on what path he needs to take in order to win. Clear morality. It is communicated and clearly explained why Shen does what he does. The audience, through his actions, have a clear view of his belief system. Fun. He's actually very captivating every time he comes onto the screen. Whether it's how hideous his behavior is or the comedy that surfaces. When he interacts with other people, he moves the story forward in a great way. What adds to his greatness as a villain is that he raises the stakes. The issue about the last movie was Tai Lang's goal beyond the Dragon Scroll was never revealed. All we know is that his heart has potential for darkness. But have you ever asked yourself, what terrible thing is going to happen if Tai Lang got his hands on the scroll? In this movie, we know that if Lord Shen wins, the whole of China falls, and the people fall under subjugation of a narcissist who is not only willing to kill an entire race to get what he wants, but is willing to wipe out his comrades as well. And the threat of death is very present in this movie. That's why I love the castle takeover scene so much. He wipes someone out, and you get the message that this time we can lose our heroes. If Lord Shen gets his way, there's more gravity to the consequences. All of this is balanced with great comedy. From his relationship with the fortune teller to his anger at Poe's stupidity, it's amazing to watch. And this comedy goes beyond him. Yes, this film is slightly darker in its tone, but the comedic timing in all of it makes it feel fun. It's rooted in enough reality that an adult can appreciate it, but the comedy in this makes it light-hearted enough that even the kids can enjoy it. Po has a different arc in this film, and it goes beyond the normal hero's journey. This movie feels like it's less about the Dragon Warrior and more about Po the Panda. It helps ground Po as a real character instead of a kid who wanted Kung Fu powers and got them. You see Po struggle with identity, especially when the one thing that now makes him who he is might become obsolete. He starts the show being unsure of who he is and ends the show with a better picture of that. He questions the relationship with his father but ends up not forsaking that relationship because he has a better understanding of his biological parents. It's just this beautiful message that sometimes blood doesn't matter and that if you love each other, that's enough to form a father and son relationship. And I love how this ties into how Po and Lord Shen look at their relationship with time. One doesn't care about the past and looks forward to crafting his future. The other deeply yearns for the past and feels like he doesn't have a future without understanding it. The writing in this film is like really, really good. And for that reason, I will give this movie a 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more content like this. I love trilogies. Sometimes a story that needs to be told cannot be done in less than 2 hours. So I'm always a fan of a movie franchise, choosing to add more movies to explore the thing I love. Kung Fu Panda attempts to do this. They have a great run with the last 2 movies. So right now, I will explore if Kung Fu Panda 3 is the movie that completes a great franchise or burns it to the ground. The plot of this movie is very much like the last 2. We have a villain from the past popping up and wants to destroy us in some shape or form. We have to stop them, and in the process, we obtain great lessons about who we are. I would have preferred someone from the current timeline just to spice things up, but hey, they needed a way to bring Uguay for a cameo. This movie does a great job of acknowledging the growth that Po has had over the last movies. He is a great martial artist, so his challenge must be something slightly beyond that, teaching and the supernatural. At first, I didn't like the idea, but towards the end, when Po unlocks Chi, I get on board because they actually give him something only he can teach the Furious 5. This goes beyond the Furious 5 though. Po is a prodigy, and prodigies usually struggle to translate their knowledge to others because their method is so unique to them and comes so naturally to them. But by making Chi the thing he needs to teach, it gives him the option of being a master beyond I kick better than you. His arc is centered on the uncertainty with regards to his identity and attempting to resolve that, which is very similar to what happened in the second movie. There's this constant attempt to define who Po is to himself. I don't mind it. I praise the last movie for staying true to its roots. But at the back of my mind, on the third installment, one expects more. And speaking of more, we have new characters. I'll focus on the 2 that really move the needle. 1. Po's dad. We finally meet Po's dad and I love it. Just purely for the fact that Po gets some validation for his identity. He realizes that there exists a place where he, in his truest form, is the norm. It's so easy to feel ostracized when you're clearly different. I love that in this movie, people want him around. But beyond that, Po's dad pulls the same strings that were pulled in the last film. Po is reunited with a figure from his past, and it helps him unlock a higher version of himself. That's exactly what happened when he met Lord Shen. The one thing I wish they did was tell more about how he survived Lord Shen's attack and how he arrived at the village. Is he originally from there, or did he find it by mistake after escape? And by the way, I don't get how pandas can do Chi anymore. You're in a village secluded from the world. Like, how in the world could Chi not have been passed down? That's why that twist was so annoying, because not only was it predictable, but it doesn't make sense. Look, despite my grievances with how they handle stuff, I still appreciate the effort to show us 2 dads coming together for the sake of their child. In our time, we do have a lot of family situations where a kid will have a step-parent. And it's beautiful to see a message of unity for the kid's sake being promoted. 2, we have Kai, who very much follows the blueprint of Tai Lung because he's a villain from the past who wants to destroy the Jade Palace and is in search of great power. At first glance, it feels uninspired. I do love that his introduction also brings us the concept of Chi. That's where he's different. And as one of the directors said, you can't go brawler because Tai Lung was a brawler. You can't go smarter because Lord Shen was smarter. So where can you go? You have to go supernatural, bigger, and even more intimidating. It's also a great comment on the dynamics around power. First, there's the old age, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Second, what is power for? Should it be used to enrich yourself and grow, or should it be used to help others? Third, too much power may overwhelm you and lead to your own destruction. His character design is probably the most physically imposing. Tai Lung looked like a cool bro. Shen looked like a regal lord. But Kai just looks like this huge figure that will dominate any and all opponents. Also, look at these blades. I love how cool they look, and I'm in love with how they facilitate this creative fighting style. His looks clearly communicate who he is. If you asked me if this was a good or bad person before I watched this movie, I would have said, yeah, that's clearly the villain in the story. J.K. Simmons does a great job of voicing Kai. He does such a good job that I forget that, oh hey, Spider-Man's biggest op is voicing this guy. This goes for the rest of the cast. Everybody holds it down, and I don't hear voices and think, that's off. It's believable, and that's all I can ever ask for from voice actors. I love how they use colors in the show. Whenever we're with the good guys, it's warm. But when Kai comes along, there's this dark, jade-colored aura that surrounds the area. Like, what a great contrast. Just look at this entrance, the clear, ominous silhouette. Whether it's Kai or the landscape, this show does an amazing job of balancing colors and composition. Every visual I see is like Poe entering the village of the pandas. Whoa! The fighting is still top tier. I just wish that some of the fights weren't off screen. I would have loved to see some of the fights that took place against the old masters and the new masters in the mortal realm. In case you forgot, they got knocked out off screen too. What carries the fights in this movie is the inclusion of the supernatural. They go out of their way to make sure that you know that Kung Fu isn't enough. You know, just like in the last movie, even his abilities force Poe to make a great sacrifice. Fights that push our protagonist to the point where he has never been before? Sign me up! And they still have this great comedy to help balance it all out and give you a laugh during these serious moments. For all my grievances, this show has some great solid moments. But at its core, it is another one, just a slight variation of the story told in the first film, and arguably a step down from the second film. But it's a perfectly good film, and if all you want is more the same, you won't be disappointed. 7.5 out of 10.